What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripes show. The Yankees completed their first homestand of the season. They won both series, which is obviously good news. You're hoping for the sweep over Miami because, I don't know, I just got the feeling they're going to have a dumpster fire of a season and just seem like a garbage team. I know they're dealing with some injuries, but they did end up pulling out that last game with Stroman not as sharp as he was in his first two starts, but still overall, Yankees' best record in baseball. What's up, Scott?
Best record in baseball, another series win. Yeah, you want that sweep when it's available. But I gotta tell you, man, like even when last night was an interesting game for me because I'm watching it and Bevan was on the couch, not really watching it the whole time, but enough. And I was talking to her about this in the ninth inning. I was like, when it was over, I was like, that was fun. That was my comments. That was fun. And she's like, they lost. What do you mean that was fun? I was like, you know what? This was a game that Stroman didn't have it. You can from the very beginning, Stroman didn't have it. His command was not there. Obviously gave up that big home run to Berger, which was the backbreaker. But from outside of that, he was trying to battle throughout the entire game. And to his credit, he did. He got through a good chunk of that game when I think a lot of five. I think a lot of people, and you wouldn't have gone against Boone if he had pulled him earlier. But he did battle through it, kept them in the game. The Yankees kept battling back, creating opportunities. Unfortunately, they just couldn't get the big hit and had an opportunity at the end with Judge up. I mean, but two of the best at-bats I've seen in a long time with Volpe and Soto in that ninth inning, 2 outs, getting on base for Judge. Very good at-bats.
But like the guy wasn't throwing strikes.
They were... I mean, yeah, he was. He took them deep. They were good at bats for him in that moment.
I think Soto's was a 5-pitch walk. Volpe, I think, was a better.
Didn't he go down 0-2?
No,
he went down 1-2. He was down in the count for a minute, but it was a good. They were good at bats.
No, they weren't. And like to your point, they got the winning run at the plate in Aaron Judge, and that's something that everyone would have signed up for heading into the 8th inning, basically when the team was pretty much lifeless up until that point. Judge flies out to center field. For a second, I don't know how you felt, but I thought they were going to pitch around Judge because Stanton had already been pulled from the game earlier and Jones was up. They probably would have pinch hit for him with Cabrera as a big spot there because the tying run would have been at second base in that instance, but they did go after Judge and Judge popped out to center field. Pulling Stanton though, it's like I get it, but all at the same time I don't get it because you pulled him in the 7th inning. You're basically just saying, okay, we're hoping we're getting that was the 7th inning that they pulled him, or was it the 8th inning that they pulled him?
It was I believe it was the 7th, but even at that point, he's the tying run. You can't.
Yeah, so you're hoping for a ball in the gap so he can score the tying run in the 7th inning. But with how hot he's been, and the only chance that Stanton comes up again, it would be in a spot to tie or win the game in the 9th inning. I kind of feel like it's worth it to keep his bat in the lineup at that point. I don't know. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if a ball does go in the gap and then he gets thrown out at the plate, you're like, why didn't you pinch run?
He's not going to get thrown out at the plate because they're not going to send him. That's why. Okay. That's the other thing is like you're trying to keep this guy healthy, yet you want him to go first to home on a ball in the gap. Like that ain't happening. So even first to third with Stanton at this point, I'm like baby gloves. Let's relax. We're seeing some good things from him with his lower half. He's able to clear his hips through the zone a lot more cleanly than he did last year. Obviously the mobility is better and his flexibility is better.
Well, he's turning on pitches. He's pulling pitches, which is like,
I know
that
which means he's getting his lower half through the zone. He's not just chopping wood only. Yeah. He's still chopping wood because that's his style. His he's got that upper body swing more than most. But he's also clearing his hips through, getting his hands through. And I got to tell you, when you see him going and pulling the ball, the fact that he's still going oppo and smoking balls to the right side in the park and out of the park is really encouraging. He looks comfortable. He does, it's a big difference in the look and feel from him in just 1 week even.
Exactly.
So,
because
but I don't want him running the base path in the 7th inning in a high pressure situation. I just don't. I fully agree with the poll.
The first road trip of the season, we commented after that, we're like, Stanton doesn't look any different. He's having bad at bats. He looks stiff at the plate. And then they came home and everything turned. He's pulling balls. He's turning on pitches. over 90. I think the stat was over 93 miles an hour, which he like could not do last year. He could not pull a pitch over 93 miles an hour last year. He's pulling those pitches this year. He's hitting them hard to left field. He's had a couple home runs. So yeah, it's been night and day just in the first 2.5 weeks of the season for Stanton. And it's encouraging, obviously, but do you think this is like one of those classic Stanton 15 game hot streaks where he lights the world on fire? Or do you think this is truly a better sign of things to come this year? And he's going to be closer to, because I talked about this with Andy Martino when he said he's picking.
Yeah, that was his X factor, right? That was
well, he said he's picking Stanton for a comeback player of the year. And I mocked him and I said, why? And I laughed in his face. And he said it wasn't that long ago that Stanton was good. Like, we think of Stanton as good so long ago, but the reality is he was an all-star in 2022, meaning he had a good first half of 2022. He had an abysmal second half of 2022, and 2023 was completely lost. But it's not like the last time we saw Stanton productive was 2019 or something like that. So from that aspect, I understand it. I still am holding my breath like you are. He goes first to third. He could pull a hamstring. Or this is just one of those classic Stanton hot streaks, and after these 12 games, he's going to be back to swinging at every slider in the left-hander's batter box. So I don't know what to make of this yet. I know I
just
tweeted this out.
Ride. Enjoy the ride.
Well, I tweeted this out. I was like, it's nice and refreshing to have multiple hitters in the lineup that you're looking forward to, and like you can't miss their at bats. Like right now, you never want to miss a Soto at bat. You don't want to miss a Volpe at bat right now. Can't miss a Stanton at bat on this homestand. And I'm still not missing Judge at bats, even though he has not been productive. Last year, when Judge was out of the lineup, I guess you could say Glaber, but I don't know. I missed a ton of Glaber at bats because it's Glaber Torres.
The fact that he's hot right now is encouraging because you're seeing the fact that he's able to do the things. And it's not just the production, but it's the way he's getting that production. So is it a hot streak? Maybe. Is it him for the future? Maybe. Is it short term? Maybe. Who knows? I think at this point we need to just let it play out and see what's up, because anybody's guess is as good as the next. The fact is right now we're seeing very encouraging things from him in the way that his body is moving. And that's what I'm mostly looking at. The fact that his body is doing the things that it should be doing within the mechanics of his swing.
But you don't want him running the bases.
But I don't want him running the bases.
I think it proves
he's not that he's a lumbering at that point. Like, you want to tie the game. You want a ball. A lot more things can happen with anybody else on the base path that has some semblance of wheels. Like, he's going to be more cautious, and I don't want him getting in his head during running the bases at some point, thinking about the lower half. I can't forget what happened last year with him, getting sent home and just like
he basically walked.
Stopping.
He walked from
halfway,
third to home,
stopping just because he couldn't do it. So
do you pinch hit for him?
Put some training wheels on what we're seeing with him on the base paths.
So they pinch ran for him in the 7th inning, and his spot in the lineup ended up not coming back up. So it didn't matter. But you're not pinch running for him any earlier than that, right? Like, it's 6th inning, same spot. You're not pinch running for him because there's a much higher likelihood he gets up again in the 8th or 9th inning.
Yeah, I think it depends on the game flow, but yes, I think that's it's about that third time through. If you can get if you have an opportunity to tie the game, and you're and he's on first base, there was one out at that time, I think, right? So you had multiple opportunities to get that hit, or string together a couple hits, and anybody else running who was on the bench at that point was a better solution for the Yankees to tie the game. So I think it's the right move.
His production,
and we're going to see it more often. We're going to see it. This is the part of load management that I agree with for him specifically. Like
but they didn't just pull him for load management. To your point, they pulled him to try and get a ball in the gap to tie the game.
It's still partly in my brain. This is part of the load management, is it not? Like, not putting those stressful tweaky.
I honestly don't think so.
Period.
I think it's that
this is when soft tissue injuries get pulled. Is when you're doing things you don't normally do, and going first to third or going first to home is not something he normally does. And that's when those soft tissue injuries generally happen, when there's the lack of, consistent movement. It's the twitchy stuff. It's the thing that your body wasn't expecting, or your muscles weren't expecting. And I feel like he's very susceptible to that.
That, and also you injure yourself when you're fatigued. I'm not saying he was fatigued, but if you're fatigued and then you try and go first to home,
Sure.
you can injure yourself.
So
Or then if you try and swing out of your shoes and you're already fatigued, you can injure yourself.
And later in a game, it's a pretty safe notion to say one is generally more fatigued than they were when they started the game.
Yeah. So I think Stanton's production behind Judge has obviously been a huge positive so far early in the season, because we talked about all spring, like who's going to be that other guy behind Soto and Judge to step up. So far, it's been Stanton. Rizzo's been so-so. He's been hitting fifth. And now Gleyber moved down in the lineup behind those guys. Boone said he was pressing. That's why he pulled him out of the leadoff spot and moved Volpe up there, who had been a force in that sixth spot. We, at last episode, talked about, are the Yankees going to move Volpe up? And then 2 days later, it happened. But at the same time, last episode, we said, I'm actually not seeing bad things from Gleyber. Like, he's having deep at-bats. He at that point had seen the second most pitches in Major League Baseball, so we were encouraged by that. But then that was immediately followed by 2 terrible games. And I actually think his at-bats on Monday and Tuesday were some of the worst at-bats he had all season, even though up until that point, I didn't feel that was the case. So that's why he was pulled out of there. And honestly, I don't want him leading off. I never wanted him hitting leadoff. I think he's a much better run producer in the middle of the lineup than he is a leadoff hitter.
Yes, when you look at what's happening here and you go by the numbers, Volpe clearly, I mean, Volpe's leading the league in numbers, let alone leading the team. The contact percentage is up. He's walking more. He's striking out less. And you're right. Gleyber's at bats, after we talked about it, started going down the shitter a little bit more, because up until that point, when Boone says pressing, I'm like, seeing the most pitches in baseball, or of among the most, does not correlate to a guy that's pressing, in my opinion. That is a guy that is seeing the ball well, that is doing the right things, and unfortunately the results are not there when bat hits ball, or when he's swinging, but he's still seeing the ball well, and the at bats are competitive. So, but yeah, the last couple of games went down to that point, and I think at some point it's very difficult to deny you have 2 right-handed guys that could fit that spot. One of them is extremely hot. One of them has much more of a stolen base prowess and is aggressive on the base path. At some point, it just makes a ton of sense to put that guy in the spot that the other guy is not competing in as much, even if it's over the last couple of games. Because if you sample those last couple of games and then you look at the unluckiness or the lack of production from Gleyber, then it's a different sample size.
Yep.
Or it's a different data.
Couple of other Marlins series takeaways, but first, you need to eat stress-free this spring with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered right to your door each week. You also need to be thinking about beach season coming up. It's going to be summer before you know it, so you want to get that body in shape. With Factor, you can be eating tasty and healthy food in just a few minutes. The process is very easy. You go on their website and choose from over 35 delicious meals each week. You can also customize your deliveries with 60 add-ons that are available. Highly skilled chefs prepare your food. It gets delivered to you. It's always fresh and never frozen. You store it in your refrigerator until you are ready to eat them. Pop it in the microwave for about 2 minutes, and boom, it's ready to eat. Factor is affordable and flexible. It costs less than ordering takeout, and you can adjust or pause your subscription whenever you want. They said to eat stress-free this spring. They're not kidding, because my house is a disaster zone whenever the 2 kids get home from daycare. And the last thing I can think about is cooking a meal for myself. So it's nice to know that I can just put something in the microwave and it's going to be ready to eat in a couple minutes. And it's also going to be good for me and taste good. No prep, no mess, just delicious food. Head to factormeals.com/Bronx50 and use code Bronx50 to get 50% off. That's an amazing deal. That is half off. factormeals.com/BRONX50. Thank you, Factor. So we mentioned best record in baseball for the Yankees. They're 10-3, best winning percentage in the league. Their run differential is +15, which ranks 10th in baseball. If you compare this to some other teams with higher run differential, you might not think it's that impressive. I think early in the season, you can see some teams with like positive run differentials, but losing records or 500 records, or you can see teams with winning records and negative run differential, because things can swing wildly early in the season. I think all this says about the Yankees is, like, we know they've won close games, which is good. We know that they've come back in games, which is good. They almost came back in last night's game as well. So it's not necessarily like they're just rolling through their competition, winning 7-1 every night. So I expect them to that run differential, assuming they continue to play good baseball, to slowly creep up. But if you compare their record and their start through 13 games, 10-3 this year, last year 8-5, 2022 they were actually 7-6. I was surprised by that. I just assumed they got off to a hotter start than that, but they picked it up late in April, and then their May in 2022 was unbelievable. And then in 2021 they were 5-8. So this is actually the best start to a season. And I know they had a good start in 2020, but guess what? We don't talk about that season. So this is their best start to a regular season they've had in a long time.
Yeah, and Aaron Judge isn't hitting yet.
Yeah.
So you can, kind of to your point earlier, like there's multiple guys in this lineup that can carry it, and push the Yankees in a good spot to actually win games. And as much as we've talked about the pitching staff and the bullpen this past week, you look at, and again, talking about this last week, the fact that the guys weren't getting deeper into games, I'm still to the point, like, let's wait and see what happens as far as them getting deeper into games because of the start of the season, them just Boone being a little bit more cautious with how long they're staying out there. But you get Nestor going out there for what, 8 innings,
2-hour ball game. We flash back to the 1950s
crazy,
where it's 8:05 and the game is over.
Yeah. And then Rodon, going and pitching deeper into the game. Like you're getting some of this, even a struggling Stroman going out there and getting through 5, just grinding. But the pitching staff and the bullpen has been good. They've been good enough to get this point. The guys in the bullpen, we're kind of waiting to see how this thing. To me, that's more of like a 2-month swing. Like, how can these guys perform, or how will they perform over the first couple months, so we can really get more of a litmus test on what you're this
talking about the bullpen
is. Yeah, the bullpen, yeah, specifically the bullpen. But they're doing a good job. And with Aaron Judge not hitting, you have offensive players around you doing picking up that weight and being in good spots to produce runs. And the fact that Juan Soto is there it just makes everything so much nicer.
I mean, what did we talk about the last 3-4 years? Oh, Aaron Judge isn't in the lineup, or he's not hitting, the Yankees can't win. That was basically it. If Aaron Judge was not hitting,
with Giancarlo Stanton, who couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
But Aaron Judge was the Yankees offense the last few years. And if he didn't hit, the team had no chance, and the offense revolved around him. I'm sure it'll revolve around him at some point this season. But right now he's not hitting. He is still getting on base, which is good. But the rest of the lineup, or not the rest of the lineup, but guys around him are hitting, which is allowing them to still win. How concerned with Judge's slow start are you? Do you think this is just didn't really have a full spring training because of the injury, so he's just going to need more time to adjust? And that's kind of what Boone was talking about when he was asked about it last night. Like, oh, no, this is just one of those things. He needs to find it, I think he said.
Yeah.
Or are you cynical, like me, and think there's something worse going on here about Judge's? It was officially an ab injury, or what did they officially call the injury?
It was something in that core region. But look, I'm not concerned. What my eye test is telling me that this is a guy that just his timing is not fully there yet. He's just going through a little bit of a thing. Or maybe he's not fully there yet because of the limited at bats towards the end of spring. I'm not worried at all as of right now. And the other piece is this, like, eye test, looking at the way he's moving, the way he's doing things, like everything looks completely fine. He's, going out there and playing center field on a regular basis. Like, the guy's not limited in movements, doesn't look different. So I'm really not concerned at this point. It's just, he's got people around him that are able to pick up the pieces. And that's the other thing. Like, you go into last year, him being the only piece of the offense. Well, you could pitch around him last year because you're getting to a guy that is Stanton, who, was essentially a non-factor, and you needed Gleyber Torres to do the second most damage in the lineup. So there was nothing around him that incentivized anybody to attack him. So, he was feasting off mistakes, feasting off of just really, good at bats and disciplined at bats on his end. But there was no incentive for anybody to attack him really last year, especially as you got into the meat of the season, understanding what the rest of that lineup was. This is so different. When I saw that last, and the reason I was fired up for those at-bats yesterday, because not only just because of the at-bats and the fact that they worked walks to get to Judge to load the bases, like that was cool in and of itself, but they were just like very competitive. The at bats, and when I see Soto up there, one, Volpe was fired up just to get on base to pass the baton. Like you could see the emotion passing the baton. Like it was a win. He won the at bat, passed the baton to Soto, and then you saw the same thing with Soto. Soto was like the baton was passed to Aaron Judge. Like these guys feel really confident, and it was like the fact that Soto stares down every single pitch in a competitive at bat. It's like watching a matador go up against a bull. Like it's fun, and it feels like Game 7 of the World Series when he's got like a pressure at bat.
Okay, so he did end up. Yeah, I'm looking at the Soto at bat now, and he did end up working a full count. So first pitch was a ball, second pitch was a called strike, third pitch was a ball, fourth pitch was a ball. And then I think it was the 3-2 pitch he thought he walked on, and it was a slider high in the zone. And I actually would have liked to see him swing, because that was a hanging slider that was high in the zone. Like that's the pitch he should have done damage on, and then he ended up walking on a ball in the dirt. But you remember the ball, I think it was on the 2-1 pitch where Soto tried to call timeout and the ump didn't give it to him. And
right. I forgot about that pitch. Yeah.
And then the pitcher
that made it a 3-1
spiked
count.
it. The pitcher spiked it into the ground.
Yeah.
But I think the 3-1 pitch, listen, Soto's such a disciplined hitter that if he thinks the ball's up, he's just not going to swing. That's why
I disagree with what you're saying. Like he's just not going to swing at that because that's.
But it was. I mean, it did look like a strike. Like I know he thought it was high, but if we're going by the strike zone,
he's looking for his.
Yeah, I know he's looking for a pitch, and he wasn't sitting on hanging slider in the middle of the plate. I get it, but that was the only pitch in the at bat though that he could have hit for damage. The rest of the pitches were either out of the zone, or I think the one other strike call was just a good pitch, and you're not going to hit that for damage. No, but fine, yeah, he passed the baton, and then Judge got up there and he popped up. Like if 2 weeks from now, Judge is locked in and he hits the ball in the gap, or he hits the ball out of the park.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like that situation, put me in that situation every single time and let me live with the outcome.
Because what happens last year in the 9th inning? Pop up, ground ball, strikeout. That's what happens in the 9th inning last year. They don't even get to Judge last year. It's 1, 2, 3, 7 pitches, done.
Yeah,
see you tomorrow.
Talk about pressing. That's true pressing. And the other thing about Soto is that at bat, like that was a tough matchup for him. That's a lefty on lefty. He's a tough lefty against lefties.
There are no tough matchups for Soto. There's only tough matchups for the pitcher.
That is a tough matchup for Soto in the sense of where that ball is coming out.
Yeah.
And you could tell that he wasn't seeing the release point all that well. So he got through that at bat and passed the baton to the guy. When you go righty on lefty, like that's the matchup you want. You want that matchup with Judge, bases loaded.
Which is why they got what they wanted.
Unfortunately, it just didn't happen.
I really thought they were going to pitch around Judge to walk in a run, and make the Yankees pinch hit Oswaldo Cabrera in that spot. I really thought that's what was going to happen. Obviously, it didn't.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the two big starts from the Yankees this week. Obviously, Nestor, which we talked about, he was just dominant, working quickly. That was such a fun start for him to watch. He had the Nestor wiggle a couple times, which that's when he's feeling it. But Rodon, 6+ innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, no earned runs because of the error by Rizzo. Second error this season from Rizzo that's uncharacteristic, where it's just like an easy play that he botches. Like this one was a double play ball that he just came up on. I don't know.
There was even another throw from
I don't know what's
Volpe
going on.
Was in the ground where he normally scoops it. I think it's
2 errors this season. He made 12 in the past 3 years combined. Yeah. I'm not saying like Anthony Rizzo's lost his ability to field the ball. It's just that's weird from Anthony Rizzo. You expect him to be a vacuum at first base. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's even the play too. You watch the replay of it, and I don't know, maybe it was the bounce in the grass or whatever. He just lifted up and just didn't stay down on the ball. It was a mindless thing. It's one of those.
They teach you that in Little League. Stay down on the ball. At least get in front of the ball so you can get one out. That's like a Little League. He couldn't get
down on the ball in that one though. That was more of a just like you feel it's like a scoop. You field it from the ground up.
He anticipated the hop and he lifted up too early and the ball went under his glove. Okay, it's an easy play for Rizzo. Normally,
it's normally an easy play for Rizzo. I am zero concerned about his defense in that motion. But yeah, the Rodon.
Let's talk about Rodon.
The biggest thing for him. to me is the control, and the fact that when you're looking at his pitch mix, it's extremely different. It is extremely different than what we saw in San Francisco. San Francisco, he was a 2-pitch pitcher. When you look at what his splits are from yesterday or from his start, he's not a 2-pitch pitcher.
Yeah. No, you're right. So
pitcher.
his mix in Tuesday's start was 53% fastballs, 18% cutters, 17% sliders, 11% changeup, and then 1% curveball. I probably threw 1 or 2 curveballs. If you compare that to 2022 with San Francisco, which was his last good season, he was 61% fastball, 31% slider. That's basically it. That's basically 100%. 5% curveball, 2% changeup. I also noticed in this game, and this was pointed out on Twitter, that Rodon's velocity was down 1 or 2 miles an hour in that game. That ended up being a good thing because his command was much better. He was throwing 95 miles an hour. His fastball still has movement at 95 miles an hour, but he had command of it much better than when he's up there trying to throw 98 miles an hour past guys, and it's neck high because he can't command it.
Here's what I love about this, okay, and this is me getting on the very good side of Rodon right now. He's a guy. Obviously, we look back at the numbers, right? This is a guy that has not gotten deep into games in his career historically over the long stretch of a season. This is a guy that is making adjustments. This is a guy that is changing his ways to fix things that have not gone well. He had a horrible year last year. Injuries played into it, but he had a horrible year when he was on. And when you see this guy right now, if he's down a couple miles per hour, but he's throwing the cutter more often, he's throwing the changeup more often, he's making these at bats that much more difficult for the batter. If you have to pick up a changeup,
he is pitching. He's not just throwing.
Cutter, then you have that. Those are the same release points. Those are the same arm slots. Those are the same motion that are giving you different movements. You're getting a 4-seam fastball where you can dot. You're getting a cutter that's got some horizontal movement. And then you have a changeup that's taking velocity off, but looks exactly the same out of the hand. And then you add in his slider, which is a plus slider. Now you have a guy that has a full repertoire, and you're seeing the increase of these secondary pitches over the start. So we're going to keep track of every single start that he's doing and see how that, how he's managing these pitches, because I think it's really interesting. And I think this is a guy that's, evolving to a point where he's feeling comfortable. And if this is Blake's influence, then I love it. If he's pushing the fact, and we know the cutter is a big Yankee pitch that is given to, or at least experimented with a lot of guys. So him adding this, additional fastball is a really good thing. And he's obviously finding a decent release point because he's throwing it a good amount.
Oh God, what was I going to say about him? Well, the other interesting thing, I'm looking at the breakdown of his pitch mix to righties and lefties. If you look at this, he's not throwing the changeup to lefties at all. So that is really a pitch that he's using to attack right-handed hitters. And there's, against a guy like Rodon, the opposing team is always going to stack the lineup with righty hitters anyway.
Well, and a right-handed changeup is actually going to go towards your throwing side. So it's going to go in on the right-handed batter, whereas, and that's why Tommy Kahnle's so effective to both sides. But when you see the hard cutting fastball, now you're drilling in on the hands of a lefty with additional hard stuff and plus the slider. So
it's just crazy because it's not every day that you sign a pitcher to a massive free agent contract and then he learns how to pitch. That happens before his contract or late in his career once he can't get guys out with his stuff anymore and he's got to sort of reinvent his game. But what we're seeing with Rodon right now is like he's evolving. I mean, we hope he's evolving as a starting pitcher and he's working in more pitches and he's learning to, like I said, pitch, not just throw. Like, obviously his stuff was good enough in San Francisco to just get guys out by darting fastballs and sliders up there. But it wasn't working for him with the
Yankees. Also had a much bigger ballpark where room for error was allotted to him in San Francisco, a little more when he's pitching at home. So, you can live with some of the mistakes a little bit more easily out there. Whereas in Yankee Stadium, you make a mistake and right field obviously will hurt you badly. If you're staying in the middle of the field, it's not going to hurt you as badly, but down the lines you can get snake bit. So he's evolving into a short sample size, and I hope this continues. I really do. I hope
everything's short sample size right now. We're on April. It's April 11th.
I know, but I have to say it because it's just part of it. But I like what I see. I really do. I like what I see, and the fact that the velocity is down a little bit.
So here's the velocity.
I'm not concerned, and I bet there's a slight grip change. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a slight grip change or some type of a pressure change with his fastball that's allowing him to command it better, which, you have some type of a give and take with velocity and control.
In his first start against Houston, his fastball averaged 95.7 miles an hour. In his second start of the season, that was against Arizona, right? He averaged 96.1 miles an hour. And then this last start against Miami, 94.3 miles an hour. So it's not like his velocity went from 98 to 92. We're talking about like a mile and a half difference here. But I think that's impactful from if you're commanding it better, that is hugely impactful. So
agreed. And again,
his ERA,
to me, that's bigger. That's the bigger thing is if you're pitching to the spots that you need to pitch, if you're hitting your spots, that's much more effective than, overthrowing.
And his ERA is 1.72, and his ERA was low before this last start, and we weren't excited about him just because of like how the games looked in his first two starts. But this last game looked different, which is why we are much more positive talking about Rodon right now. So a couple of other things I wanted to touch on is, well, obviously for Juan Soto, the first Yankee Stadium home run, and that was a Yankee Stadium home run. That's a short porch job. I found it very, very poetic that in that game, the Kay and O'Neill talked about how, Soto's not just a classic Yankee Stadium hitter. He's going to hit to all fields. Oh, look, he hits a ball down the left field line for a double. True. But he will run into some of those Yankee Stadium home runs because that's probably not a home run in a lot of parks that he hit on Monday. Or was that Tuesday, whatever it was. But he basically just popped the ball up down to right field and it went out.
O'Neill was talking about this quite a bit, and I love it when O'Neill starts talking like when he goes inside baseball with hitting and just starts using his experiences and what he sees. But the fact that Soto is not intentionally or not methodically trying to go to right field is a very good thing because that would break from the mold of who he is as a hitter. He hits the ball where the ball is. That's why when you look at his splits, and again, this is not one of those things that I really knew about him until we started watching him a lot. The ball is up and away. He's gonna put that ball into left field. It might be into the left field seats. It may be down the line. It may be in a gap. He's looking at the defense. He's doing what the situation calls, but he's hitting the ball where the pitcher is putting it. He's not trying to pull a ball that's up and away. He's going with that pitch and with power, with amazing opposite field power and control. He's able to do what he wants with that ball. So yes, Yankee Stadium in right field is going to give him more home runs because of the fact that he hits the ball hard and will go with the pitcher. But I would be damn surprised if you're a pitcher going against Juan Soto at Yankee Stadium and you're throwing that ball inside on him. You're not trying to. If there are mistakes that come in on his hands, he's going to make you pay for that. And he has the right field porch, to his advantage. But if I'm the pitcher and I'm attacking Juan Soto at Yankee Stadium, I mean, I'm staying away.
Yeah, that's the big part of the ballpark. That's for every left-handed hitter, not just Juan Soto.
But for him specifically, like that guy, you can't miss your spot even a little bit, or he's going to make you pay.
He is an all-field hitter, which is beautiful. Last night, I pointed this out in our chat. For his double in the eighth inning, the Marlins were playing him basically in right center field. And I know that was another lefty on lefty at bat. So they're probably thinking, okay, lefty pitcher, he's even less likely to pull the ball. But he pulled the ball down the right field line. And when they showed the angle, the right fielder had like a mile and a half to run just to go shag the ball. They were so far off the line, which makes sense because you look at his spray chart and it is literally line to line.
Yeah. And I don't remember where that pitch was on him, but it wouldn't surprise me.
It was inside.
Yeah, so the pitcher
he turned on it.
He missed his spot. He missed his spot because if you're lining up like that as a defense, you're not pitching that guy inside to give him a better opportunity to turn the ball down the line. If the right fielder is playing, if shading towards center field, you're trying to pitch him away and make him either ground the ball or pop it up. But you're certainly not trying to give him an opportunity to pull the ball down the line.
He has done literally everything that we could have asked so far the first 2 weeks, provided game-saving defense, produced at the plate in big spots, signing balls for Yankees fans in right field in the middle of innings, hitting home runs to left field, hitting home runs to right field, saying all the right things. He stole a base the other night and then ended up, he probably would have been out if it was a good throw, but he stole the base, then ended up popping up and going. So like he's literally doing everything.
Yeah, he's a godsend for this team right now, because not only is he doing all the things that he's supposed to be doing on the field, but the influence of having him in that dugout and the presence, and just like, again, I go back to his confidence at the plate. His confidence at the plate is unfucking matched. Those at bats with him against anybody, and then when you add a pressure situation, it is intense. It is an intense at bat, and we are April 10th. And I'm watching against the Marlins, and I'm feeling like crazy intensity when I'm watching him in the ninth inning going up against down by 3, going up against a Marlins pitcher. Again, April, like he just brings that level of energy and intensity that you can't put your finger on what that effect is throughout this team, but it is an absolute effect, and it trickles down to all these guys. So his clubhouse presence and his just the aura and his presence of him being on the field is a difference maker.
The Yankees are hitting the road for 6 games, and if you're looking for a ticket while they're in Cleveland or Toronto, then you need to be using Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, meaning buying tickets to a baseball game on Game Time is now even faster and easier. The Game Time app has a ton of great features. Some of my favorites include the flash deals, so you can see what sections the best deals are in, all-in pricing, so there's no surprise fees at checkout, and seat views, which might come into play here if you're going to be on the road and you've never been to whatever they're calling Jacobs Field now and whatever they're calling the Sky Dome now in Toronto. You can use the seat view, showing our age there of what the stadiums used to be called in the 90s. I sometimes will just open up the Game Time app just to check on ticket prices. Kind of reminds me of when I used to live in the city, Scott, where I'd just be like, oh, it's a Wednesday night. Let me check. Oh, I can get in for $12. Let me go. Just living vicariously through myself from 7 years ago. It's nice. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for sporting events, but you can also find tickets for concerts, comedy shows, theater, and much more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section in the same row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code BRONX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Once again, create an account and redeem code BRONX, that spells Bronx, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The Yankees catching production this year has been one of their weak spots. So they ranked 27th in baseball with a 35 WRC plus. That ain't good. Their WAR is actually negative 0.1, which is surprising because you'd figure they would at least start to produce some positive defensive WAR from the catching side, especially with Jose Trevino, but they are 24th in baseball for WAR. They are first in walk percentage. Okay. They're walking a lot. Thank you, Austin Wells, because that's basically you saving that. Jose Trevino is batting .056 with a 248 OPS. He is 1 for 18 with 3 walks. Austin Wells hitting 130 with a 430 OPS because he does have a 300 on base percentage, which ain't bad for a 130 average. 3 for 23, 6 walks. If you compare his season last year, we talked about this. He got off to a really slow start when he first got called up in his 6 games, but then in his last 13 games in September last year, had a 933 OPS with 5 doubles and 4 homers. And interestingly, his advanced metrics right now are saying he should actually start to produce soon because his expected waiting on base average is the 93rd percentile. His expected batting average is the 72nd percentile. His expected slugging percentage is in the 94th percentile. So his expected stats are very good. His average exit velocity, interestingly, though, is in the 20th percentile, which is bad. But his barrel percentage is in the 88th percentile, which is good. His hard hit percentage is in the 24th percentile, which is bad. But his sweet spot percentage is in the 79th percentile, which is good. Overall, he's not chasing a ton and not whiffing a ton, and he is not striking out a ton. And as we mentioned, he is walking. He's in the 98th percentile for walks. So some of these metrics are, on the face of it, contradictory because exit velocity and hard hit percentage bad, but barrel percentage and sweet spot percentage good. That also aligns with expected batting average and expected slugging percentage, which are good. We were talking about this before. What this is measuring is all the balls that he makes contact on. So he is probably hitting balls hard, but he's also making a lot of outs with weak contact, which is why you look at the overall hard hit percentage and it's bad. My eye test, I've noticed a lot of his outs have come on the ground trying to pull the ball, weak contact, dribblers to first base, dribblers to second base. But mixed in there, he has hit balls hard to the outfield, just not drop for hits. They've been outs.
Yeah, so this is for me a classic case of how is your defense through these non-productive at bats in these games? And again, like you said, he's walking, so that's something. Defense has been there. I think there's been no issue with his defense by any means. I know that the defensive stats are not putting these guys a little higher bit with their WAR, but defensive stats early in season, they're really tough to. Defensive stats in general are tough, but early in season with small sample size, really tough. So you made my head spin a little bit with the amount of advanced statistics that you gave. So I appreciate you reading those off. But yes, I agree with the sentiment of this. Like, the guy looks a little unlucky in the sense that he is barreling some stuff up when he's hitting it as far as the percentage. The sweet spot's getting hit. But he's also making some weak contact at points as well. So it's a matter of, and the walks. Like, if he's walking and not striking out a ton, that means the control of the strike zone, the control of the at-bats is in a pretty good spot, and the results will most likely start to level out a little bit more. And as you mentioned, he was a slow starter when he first got called up. So, maybe this is just part of what we're seeing here. But this is what he's known for. He's known to be an offensive catcher. He's a hitter.
But did you mention the framing? I mean, his framing is ranking very good in baseball right now.
Cool. Great. So framing is awesome. And he's starting a lot of games. He obviously has the confidence of the coaching staff and the pitching staff. So we're seeing the dividends there, with what he's done on his own work on his defense. And that is everything that we've seen, everything that we've heard from these guys talking about. And when you compare Trevino and Wells, as far as who's got the opportunity to make more of an impact offensively, it's
obviously
you're not going to get one person that tells you it's anybody other than Wells. So just keep starting him and see what happens if he can work through it.
Did you see him that Yes showed a great shot during Monday's game? You might have missed it because the game was only 2 hours, but Cole was basically taking Rodon and Austin Wells to school. He was showing them stuff on an iPad. And at one point, Rodon started to touch the iPad, and Cole swats his hand away. He's like, and he puts his hands on both sides. Like, no. I'm the master here. Okay. You are the learner. You will follow me, and I will tell you what is right, because you don't know what is right. And then look,
you know how to throw 2 pitches. I know how to throw more. You watch what I'm doing.
And then Wells is just sitting there like a puppy dog. Like, yeah. Whatever you say. Yep. Okay. Yeah. It was a fun little shot.
And that's the thing, like you just from listening to him last week when he was on the mic for a good amount of time too. It's like they have another insanely detailed pitching coach who's in the dugout right now, and who's just starting to throw a baseball, but rehabbing and very much involved with what's happening with the guys. So, you look at what the influences are on this team, and you have Cole on the pitching side and Soto on the offensive side with, match him with Judge and just like the experience of a guy like Stanton. There's a lot for these young guys to bring in and to learn and to try to not make the same mistakes. You have a lot of really, really good minds in there that have had a ton of success. So I love seeing the fact that Cole's really involved.
If I could frame Cole swatting away Rodon's hand, I would. Maybe one of those digital frames where it's just like a GIF over and over again. Just get out of here. Get out of here.
That's good. Make it an NFT.
Yeah. So Yankees are going off to Cleveland. Like we said, Cleveland's off to a good start. I know they've had some pitching injuries already this season. They've got a 9-3 record, a plus 35 run differential. The starting matchups are going to be Clark Schmidt versus Carrasco. A couple of matchups to note here is that Jose Ramirez is 3 for 6 off Clark Schmidt. Stephen Kwan is 3 for 5. Jimenez is 3 for 6. So everyone just hits Clark Schmidt. Surprise. Big surprise there. Against Carrasco, Yankees 2 for 8 for Juan Soto with a home run, 3 for 5 for Rizzo with a home run. Judge is 0 for 4, and Birdie has had a ton of at-bats against Carrasco, 4 for 14. We should also mention that it seems like they're moving into a little bit more of a platoon now with Oswaldo and Birdie.
It's a full-blown platoon. Oswaldo's just not. He didn't play at all against Miami. When there's a left-handed pitcher up, Birdie's getting the start. Is what it looks like right now. Even with Cabrera, hitting the ball well. They're clearly like the position that they believe that is the strongest for him is lefty on righty. That's what they believe. And if it's a true third base platoon and it's putting that spot in the best position to win on a daily basis, depending on the matchup, I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah. And then game 2, we've got Heel versus McKenzie. Stanton 1 for 5 off of McKenzie, and then Cortes versus Allen to wrap up the series. Nothing really of note there for matchups, but Cleveland off to a good start. I mean, they're one of these teams. It's like even when they're not having a good season, I feel like they're always going to play the Yankees tough because they're always going to pitch well. They're always going to be in games. So it always seems to be a tough matchup when they play the Guardians.
Yeah, and Hill and versus McKenzie, that matchup is intriguing to me. It's two guys that are fun to watch pitch. So
electric stuff from both of those
I'm looking
guys.
I'm looking forward to that one too.
Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like us, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. That is why I am excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of the Bronx Pinstripe Show. Unified Healing is a new and innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of EE System, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Whether you are in the New York City area or hundreds of other locations around the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. If you are interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself, go to unifiedhealing.com/Bronx to learn more and find a center near you. That is spelled UNIFYD, healing.com/Bronx. No material or testimonial on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you might have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System. The last thing we wanted to talk about is we touched on this last week, but pitcher injuries, elbow injuries, Tommy John surgeries, like all-time high. It seems every year it's at an all-time high. But we're now getting each side, the Players Association and MLB, bickering about this, and like Players Association saying the league doesn't care about us. The pitch clock is leading to more pitcher injuries. MLB, I guess, saying no, we don't care about you. I don't know what the players are really that upset about with this, but there was a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. First is Garrett Cole, after he played catch on Monday at Yankee Stadium, spoke to the media for 18 minutes about this subject, which is a crazy amount of time to be talking about one specific thing. So he's obviously passionate about this. And then there's some comments that I saw on Instagram from Verlander that I want to play in a minute. But Garrett Cole said, I don't know what the answer is, but I know it's not black and white, like both of the statements that were put out. And he was very frustrated when talking about this. He's talking about the statements from the PA and from the league. He says, regarding the new rules that MLB has implemented in recent years, I don't feel like players are the main focus of it, and taking care of players is the main focus of it. He said, Commissioner Rob Manfred is supposed to care about players, supposed to really deeply care about them, like that is his job. Now, I want to pause there for a minute. That is not Rob Manfred's job, Garrett. It's not to just care. It's not to care about the players. It's to make the league as best as possible. That's his job.
The product of baseball is his job.
Yes, not the players. That is the MLB Players Association job.
However, the product of baseball, when players are in a good spot, is usually better.
Usually, but has not been in recent years, and that is why players
you could go back to multiple decades and multiple eras of different things happening.
Sure, but we're not talking about the dead ball era. We're not talking about
the game of baseball is put above any one individual player, or the considerations are more for the entertainment of the sport and the popularity of the sport. This is why they looked the other way for the steroids for such a long time. This is why the ball got juiced. These are all the things. They're not looking necessarily at the ramifications. It is the Players Association's job at that point to protect their players and to make sure that all these changes that the baseball is making are agreed upon and, are up to snuff with what they believe is best for the players. And they will forever butt heads on these points.
Yes, exactly. And
we all want the kumbaya, but
it's
the
never
kumbaya
gonna happen.
just doesn't happen.
It's never gonna happen. They're leading up to, we talked about this, like the next CBA is after what, the 2025 season, and as soon as that's signed, it's gonna just be bickering towards the next one. Like that's how these two sides operate till the end of time.
Yeah. How often does the moon enter in front of the sun?
7 years. Every 7 years, it lines up perfectly with the MLB, almost perfectly with the MLB CAs. All right, so there's a couple other things that I want to mention from Cole, but let's play this Verlander clip. It's a 4.5-minute clip. We're only going to play some of it because, but I encourage you to go check it out on Instagram because it's really good.
Just the last couple of days, we've seen a bunch of pitchers go down with injuries. There's been blame on both sides. What do you think?
I don't know, man. It's tough. I think the game has changed a lot. I think it'd be easiest to hear and blame the pitch clock. I think in reality, you put everything together and everything has a little bit of influence. I think the biggest thing is the style of pitching has changed so much. Everybody's throwing as hard as they possibly can and spinning the ball as hard as they possibly can. And, it's hard to deny those results. Obviously, how can you? It's a double-edged sword. How can you tell somebody to go out there and not do that when they're capable of throwing 100? And this young guy comes up and throws a pitch 95 and gives up a big homer, and everybody's like, "What the hell, man?" So something needs to change. I don't have all the answers. I know pitching. And I've been. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. It is what it is. I think the data's out there at this point. But when the balls started to change back in 2016 and they started flying out a bit more frequently, I know myself personally that started changing how I had to approach pitching. You have to start swinging. You have to start approaching the batter as I want swing and miss. I can't have him put the ball in play where the old adage, pitch down, pitch away from the guy, hit your spot, get weak contact early in the count, and then you can kind of go up. And that kind of went out the window when everybody started being able to leave the yard, especially opposite field.
So I'll stop it right there because that is sort of what the article I referenced from Yahoo talked about as like the start of this, is that the juiced baseballs started to cause pitchers and pitching philosophies to change. As Verlander said, you need to miss a bat because you could still hit your spot on the outside corner and a guy can pop one out to right field, just like he could pull a ball in the middle of the plate, right? That's a factor. Then some of the other things that the Players Association is saying that the league has implemented that are leading to more injuries: pitch clock, obviously, less time between innings, and then crack down on sticky stuff, which can't forget about the sticky stuff and how Glasnow, right, was immediately said, "Oh, that's why I got injured." And then they quoted abnormal preseasons from 2020 to 2022, which obviously 2020 had an abnormal season because of the pandemic, but what are they? I don't know what they're referring to. 2021 and 2022 abnormal preseasons.
Well, just in general, the way that Verlander's talking, Verlander hit it on the head. And obviously some of these older veteran guys are looking at what's happening here and are concerned about this. Verlander referenced the conversations he would have with Scherzer in the dugout with the Mets and some of the things that they were looking at. Obviously Cole is a veteran guy, is a leader. I think a lot of these guys at this point in their careers have that responsibility of kind of like being the pitchers in the locker room to talk about this stuff as well and to compare, what has been done over a long period of time. And I think Verlander is completely spot on in the sense that this is not a one scenario, a reason for one scenario affecting why guys are getting all of these elbow injuries and injuries with their arm. It's not one thing. It's a multitude of things that have happened over time. It goes back to, maybe the juice ball era, but it goes even deeper than that with the way that, young hitters are playing and teaching or getting taught launch angle. So they're, and the pitchers are pitching more year round now with club baseball. Like, it goes really deep into the development of baseball too, I believe. There's a lot of kids coming up that are throwing just a hell of a lot more often and are being specialized at a younger age as well. And I think we're starting to see the ramifications of the fatigue of the arm because of some of those things that happened early in their development years. And you can't put a pin on that until the data is there, 15, 20 years later, and identify, it's not it's a trailing average that you have to kind of look at. But I think all of these things, and then you're changing, the pitch clock, and you're getting rid of the sticky stuff where, to Glasnow's point, like, you have to put different pressure on the ball. And when you put pressure on the ball, if you just squeeze a baseball right now, anybody, you can feel your forearm. And if you start moving your fingers, you can feel your forearm in different ways. And all of a sudden that trickles into your elbow. You can absolutely feel it just by squeezing a baseball. So yes, it does change things. And when you're putting that much torque on your arm in the way that they're doing it now, because mechanics have also changed, it's just a recipe for more arm injuries. And again, it's not one thing, it's a multitude of things. So the fact that the MLBPA is just pointing to one thing is a little irresponsible and I think that's kind of what Cole is kind of alluding to as well. It's like, that's not just it. That's what he's saying. That's not the only reason.
Well, I mean, that's definitely what Verlander's comments were.
I think Cole was saying that too, because the two sides are
He did say it's not black and white. Yes.
Yeah.
But he's then saying, like, he wants the league to have more empathy towards players. And
yeah, he also has to walk a line of understand. These guys all have to walk that line of understanding that there is a CBA going to be coming up and there's leverage and what you say matters, especially as the leaders.
Cole's also a player rep. So he's
exactly. Which is extremely important. He's a politician.
Yeah. So Verlander, we paused the statement because the clip, it goes on for like another 3 minutes, but he goes on to talk about how when he was teammates with Scherzer last year, they were talking about, are there ways to incentivize teams to have pitchers go deeper in games, tying the starting pitcher to the DH and things like that. So it's probably just a case of like Scherzer and Verlander, and probably even Cole for that matter, are from a different era of pitching versus guys that are coming up now, where, Verlander, when he started his career in 2006, which is crazy, it was, I need to go 7-8 innings as a starting pitcher. There was at least more of that. I need to get weak contact in certain spots so I can throw more economical and go deeper into games. And now he had to evolve way later in his career to be more of a strikeout pitcher. Not that he wasn't always a strikeout pitcher, but so like Verlander has been through those iterations of the league. Scherzer has been through those iterations of the league. Even Cole has, and there's probably other pitchers around baseball, but the majority of pitchers in baseball now have not been through those. They're from the post 2016 era of the league, which is now, like you talked about, this is not a quick fix because the horse has left the barn. All the way, players' development starts with, this is how you need to pitch if you want to get to the major leagues. This is how teams in their minor leagues, this is how they're drafting pitchers. This is how they're developing pitchers. This is how pitchers are getting through the minor leagues. It's with strikeout stuff. It's not with sinker ball, ground ball stuff. It's with strikeout stuff.
You're right. And that's another reason why we see the 3 true outcomes. That's why we see longer games because they're not pitching to contact as it were in the past. But, to Verlander's point, also, one of the things that he said was, how do you blame a guy that is shown the path to do something that his body is capable of, throwing 100 miles per hour and being able to go out there and blow guys away and seeing the results. And that's what analytics is also kind of putting a microscope on. It's changing the way that mechanics are being taught. It's changing the way that individual guys are going about the way that they're pitching. It's not broad strokes. They may be looking at spin rate and the things that they have correlations to results, but to get the spin rate without any advanced sticky stuff, or, to get that same spin rate, you're going to have to overthrow. You have to do different things. You have to put pressure on the ball differently. So there's a lot of things that are going into this. And when you look at what analytics has done, you can look at it as a good thing in the sense that they've identified like super hyper specific things that you can do to increase velocity, increase movement on your pitches. That's why we're seeing insane, jumps left and right from some of these pitches, like Kopech throwing 102 miles per hour. You got Michael King with like stupid movement on two seam fastballs, essentially. Like this didn't happen because the way that they're being so hyper focused on how you can spin a ball and they can drill it and over again, and the technology is there. So it's tough to tell a guy that you can't do it when he knows he can.
Yep. Yeah, and this is how you're going to get to the major leagues and potentially make millions of dollars.
It's like smoking cigarettes. Like, you're going to get lung cancer at some point, very probably, higher percentage, but people who smoke cigarettes.
I guess if you're equating lung cancer to Tommy John surgery, sure. All right, that's going to wrap it up. We, like I said, the Cleveland series is coming up, so we'll be back at you again after the Yankees play that weekend series. We'll talk to you next week.